Ngā mate tua tini o te wā haramai, haere. Tātou kei te pito ora, ti he wa mauri ora, and welcome back to the Hui. The ACT Party has a new deputy leader, Nicole McKee, he uri no Ngāpuhi, who takes the role just 4 months away from the election. We sat down with Nicole McKee to discuss her new role and her key focus for the ACT Party. Minister, tēnā koe. Thank you very much for your time. And I should say congratulations on being appointed the new deputy leader for the ACT Party. Not bad for someone who never thought they'd ever be a politician.
Exactly. I didn't see it coming. I never thought I'd be a politician full stop, let alone be a cabinet minister, let alone then be deputy leader of the ACT Party. So yeah, a quick rise and one that I'm humbled by.
Why you, do you think?
I think I have a way of trying to bring people together and really just trying to make sure that everybody's views are heard and looking after everybody. When I came in, it was to look to rewrite the Arms Act, and I even took myself off to university when I was in opposition to do a postgraduate paper on public policy to make sure I understood what the good lawmaking process was like, so that when I do write the Arms Act, that I follow through and can make sure I do have good law. What I think I've found over the last at least 6 years or so is lawmaking has quite often been rushed, and as a result we have unintended consequences.
You said your raison d'etre, for want of a better way of putting it, was to come in to rewrite the firearms legislation.
Yes.
If that gets passed, is that it? Is your job done?
Not quite. That's only half the job. Making sure that it's implemented well is a bigger part, and that's what I'll be striving to do next term, should people continue to loan us the party vote for this election.
You are Māori?
Yes.
You are Ngāpuhi?
Yes.
From
Maungarongo Marae, which is Mangatapere, or as most people refer to it as being close to Poreti. I think it's because that's where the pub is.
How does that influence or even shape your worldview?
As I was growing up, I didn't have much to do with our marae, but when I did go back there, it was always for a tangi. I love seeing all the history and the photos on the wall and talking to my elders. But the one thing when I came into politics, and a lot of my family, not very fond of the ACT Party, but fond of some of the work that I want to do, especially in rewriting the Arms Act and realising the avenue to get me there to do this. But I found very quickly in this job, no matter what you do, you upset somebody.
You said that there are many in your whānau who don't like the ACT Party. Why is that?
Well, I think probably because we're not socialist. It's almost like government's to blame for everything and government is the answer for everything. And I don't see it that way. I'm one that looks at individual responsibilities, and I think in a lot of our marae base, it's more of a collective, and we look to move forward as a collective. I start off on the basis that we move forward as an individual and we bring everybody together and move forward.
But when it comes to individual rights, are we talking about rangatiratanga here?
Well, I do believe in tino rangatiratanga, that we are or should have that ability to self-determine. We should have that ability to make sure that we can progress and move forward. The ACT Party, we start with the individual, whereas I think our marae all start as the collective. So it's just a different starting point. But again, I think we want that end goal, which is the determination, self-determination.
How do you get an outcome of equality of opportunity when people are starting at different starting points, when people in our community aren't even at the start line to be able to get that equality of opportunity? How do you fix that?
Yeah, and that's going to be a big fix, right? And it's not one single thing that will fix it. I think it's multiple things that will fix it. And this is where I think the ACT Party are on the right road here. One of our philosophies is to get government out of your life, so that you can go about doing the things that you need to do so that you can aspire. You talk about the ability for people who are already so far down. How do we get them up to that stage? We give them educational opportunities. This is why ACT has been big proponents of the charter school. Make sure that people who want to learn in a different way are able to learn and still get those concepts of how it is that they can be free to determine their own lives, but still move forward. So I think that there are a whole lot of different ways. I mean, if you look at our health system, for example, we're saying that we need to have health that's based on need, not race. People say to us, oh, you're going to determine things for Māori that'll put them in a worse position. And that's not true. If the need is there, they will be elevated up there to the top, just as they always should be, based on their needs.
How do you do that, though? Because in many people's minds, the way you do that is by being a lot more proactive than you are now.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a lot more proactiveness. You know,
So how do you do that?
well, it's about constantly having the conversations and landing in a place where we can all agree that we will move forward. And what we're seeing at the moment is that we can't agree, or perhaps we're just so used to fighting with each other. That's the first thing that we do, is start fighting instead of trying to compromise and find that middle ground.
But without equity, i.e. getting everyone at the same starting point for the same race, if you don't have that, you will never get equality, and therefore you will never get equality of outcome.
And one of the things we need to deliver is the opportunities in that first place, so that people can take it. Yeah, we come back to the equity side, right?
Yeah.
The way that I was brought up, I had a single mother bringing up 2 children. She struggled. There was no DPB when she first had us. She was out there working 2 jobs. Her equity wasn't there. The equality wasn't there for her.
You're saying that the argument for equity is a negative argument. It won't address things like the current state at the moment, 22.3% Māori Pacific Islanders unmet health needs or haven't seen a GP in the last 12 months. 60 to 68% of Māori and Pacific Islanders, comparison to 75% non-Māori, lack of access to health needs. And education, university entrance, 31.4% Māori, 30.7% Pacific Island Polynesian aren't achieving UE by comparison to 60% non-Māori. So without an equitable distribution of resource and access at the beginning, you are never going to get equality of outcome at the end, surely.
And I think that when you see some of the changes that have been made in specific areas, so we talked about charter schools will help people get to an area or to a stage in their life where they may be able to and should be able to apply for university entrance and get in, because the foundations there are going to help them to improve. And there's not one answer to the equity. It's about the equity problem. The answers are in trying to define where those main issues are and how do we support. And it's not just Māori and Pacifica. There are similar equity issues with other races as well. So how do we embrace all of them?
Where's the other race issues? I've just given you the stats. You have 31.4% Māori attaining UE by comparison to 60 to 70% of non-Māori. There is a massive issue there.
Yeah. Well, I look at, for example, the amount of Māori who were not going to school. That's got to help as well. Whether or not we have them even turning up to school in the first place, they're not going to get to university if they're not even going to primary or they're not going to secondary school. So you look at, well, what are the reasons for them not going there? And a lot of them is that they feel disenfranchised when they go to those schools. So we have a look at kura kaupapa, we have a look at the charter schools that have been brought in as a result of this, and there's a lot of them that have come back in under this government, under the ACT policy, and you've got people engaged in school again. Then you start having those opportunities of them actually getting into university and progressing even further. And what we do need to point out is that there are a large number of Māori who have taken the opportunity, who are excelling, who have gone to university, just off their own backs as well.
Can I talk about something more related to your portfolio as a minister,
Sure.
particularly in the justice sector? 45% of all people convicted in this country are Māori. 52 to 56% of the total prison population is Māori, and for Wahine Māori the stats are worse. 61 to 65% of those in the prison population are Māori. I know you're saying that it's complex and it requires a number of things to solve these problems. But if you don't have the equity debate, you rule out something that could potentially be a massive problem solver here.
Well, I'm not quite sure what your question's about. If you're looking at the high proportion of Māori that's in prisons, I think that actually speaks to a different kaupapa, and it's the fact that we have a law in New Zealand, many laws within New Zealand, and they're being broken. And so we've got to go back and ask, why are they being broken? Because quite frankly, I'm all for locking up anyone who beats their children or beats other people. And I don't think that comes down to an equity issue. I think that comes down to an attitude issue. I don't care what colour or race you are. If you're going to do that sort of harm to people, then we will lock you up. The question then needs to be, how do we ensure that when they come out, that that's not the same attitude that they take out with them as when they came in, that it's not okay to behave in that way. And I think that the rehabilitation side of it needs a lot more emphasis and, quite frankly, a lot more work on it as well.
But one of the responses that you have to that is the reintroduction of the 3 strikes law. Won't that just end up with a greater problem and therefore more Māori in prison than we have now?
Well, they'll only be in prison if they keep committing those really heinous crimes. And I think that's the thing to recognise, is 3 strikes is not about every single crime you commit. It's about 42 of the most serious violent crimes that could possibly be committed. New Zealanders also expect consequences when it comes to those very serious sexual and violent offences. And I make no apologies for that as well. Come back again to that ability for rehabilitation. And my theory that I think the rehabilitation within the corrections system needs to be stronger and needs to be looked at.
Hoki mai anō e hoa mā. In part 2 of our interview with Nicole McKee, things get a little heated when we discuss the treaty principles and race relations in Aotearoa. I want to talk about treaty issues. Were you not told that introducing a bill like the Treaty Principles Bill would be divisive?
We were told that there could be some divisiveness in it, but when we looked at what we were trying to get across effectively was principles of the Treaty of Waitangi were introduced by a law court in the 1980s. They weren't defined. They've been defined over subsequent years. Not everybody agrees with those definitions. As a result, this is a potential way forward where we might all agree. People said it was divisive, people said it was racist, but at the end of the day, our job here is lawmakers. Our job is to go out to the country and ask for their opinions, whether they like it, whether they don't.
But you have admitted that the bill damaged Māori-Crown relations. Were you not told that?
I haven't admitted, and I wasn't told that it would damage Māori-Crown relations. What I think it's done is started a whole brand of misinformation that went out there, a lot of it perpetrated by the media, a lot of it saying that we were wanting to divide New Zealand. That's never been the attempt. But obviously the way that it was carried through didn't work for New Zealand. That's what I wasn't expecting.
The Waitangi Tribunal told you that it was divisive. There were lots of experts on Māori history, New Zealand history, on the treaty who said it was going to be divisive. You were told. Your leader was told in interviews with the media, yes, but also by other experts, that it would be divisive. So for you to say, and for the party to say that you didn't know it was going to be divisive is wrong. You were told.
Well, you're using the word divisive. We thought it would start a debate, and we thought it was a debate that New Zealand needs to have. Okay. And we still believe it's a debate New Zealand needs to have. So
who are the treaty experts that you spoke to, that the ACT Party speaks to even now, when still wanting to enact some form of legislation to look at treaty principles? Who are you talking to at treaty experts? Who's in the room?
I don't talk to treaty experts because I'm not the one that is developing or had developed that policy. I'm one that stands by it.
So you're the deputy leader now of the party.
So why don't we look at what and where we're going to move as a country as we move forward?
I'm just asking you who the experts are. If you have good people in the room who can give you the advice at the start, you wouldn't end up in the position that you did.
So you're saying if we have good people in the room that tell us, and the only experts that you suggest that would know the right way is the ones that agree.
Is the response and where that legislation went to, which it wasn't passed.
And I don't agree that the only experts are the ones that agree with you or the Waitangi Tribunal. I don't agree with that at all.
I'm actually supporting your party, which is I don't want to waste taxpayers' money on pieces of legislation they're not going to go anywhere. And I don't want to waste people's time in the country debating a piece of legislation that was poorly written and was negated, not only through the process, but also had many submissions against it from experts and New Zealanders who told you if you did this, that this would happen. What I'm trying to do is help the party not get there again now.
New Zealanders want to unite. They want us to all get on together like we were back in the 1970s, and having all these arguments about who's right, who's wrong, who did this, you were told that. Actually get over it and start moving forward.
That's an interesting point you just made. For the sake of moving on the conversation, I mean, I, to be honest with you, Minister, saying that going back to the 1970s and the way things were in the 1970s, I'd encourage you to do a bit more research on the state of race relations in this country in the 1970s. But for the sake of moving on.
A lot of things, the reason why I brought up the 1970s is because a lot of things changed in the 1970s. We nearly lost our te reo language.
Yep.
And we then had Te Kura Kaupapa come in. We started to get our Māori language back, and it was
That wasn't in the
emphasised.
1970s, Minister. But anyway,
The New Zealand that I knew in the 1970s, where my relationship with the Pākehā neighbour on one side and the Māori neighbour on the other side was equal. That is the 1970s that I would like to see us get back to, where we have respect for each other and where we were able to embrace each other, grow up together, and the most important thing is help each other. And that's what we've lost. That is the 1970s that I'm talking about. It's not about a legal statute on how a person would behave. It was my true, genuine life.
Minister, I would encourage you to do your research on the state of race relations in the country in the 1970s.
Julian, it's my life.
I'm talking about the facts of the state relations, race relations in the country in the 1970s. But to come back to a point that you did make, which I do want to salute you for, is your advocacy for Te Reo Māori. And I think that's something that is admirable, and you spoke about that. What informs your party, who says removing Māori names from government departments is doing anything other than actually not helping the development of Te Reo Māori as an official language in this country?
The people who tell us what it is that they want are the ones that vote us into these positions to make these changes. The ones that have given,
where are they?
So the
Where
one
are
that's
they?
given ACT their party vote and their order to come in and to talk on their behalf and to make the policy changes or advocate on their behalf. They don't need to be experts. They need to be the people that are out there that are saying, I don't know where to go. Because as a government, we are responsible not only to Māori. There are 4 million people in New Zealand who are not Māori that do not listen or understand Māori first.
When I talk about the experts, if you develop policy in a vacuum without the expertise that can foresee the unintended consequences of any policy position, you end up like you did on treaty principles, which is divisive, or indeed on your approach when it comes to Te Reo Māori and Māori names first for government departments, which actually isn't in the interest of the development of official languages in this country. That's why I'm asking about the experts.
There's always opposing views on just about every piece of legislation that we put through. You talk about your experts, we will say that we had ours. Everybody has, and this is what I love about a democracy, that ability to say, I don't agree. Okay. But our job is to take that out to the people. And yes, it might end up having a big hikoi that comes to Wellington because of it, or it might end up finding a place where there is a happy middle ground. And that happens so much in legislation.
Or a robust discussion like you and I are having. As a part of your justice portfolio, what is the future of the Waitangi Tribunal in your view?
Well, I think that the Waitangi Tribunal was brought in to help us get to the settlement provisions that we have with so many iwi. ACT has supported every single treaty settlement that's gone through. We have a major one left, which is ours, Ngāpui, and I think, I'd like to see them concentrate on doing that because that's what they were established to do. But I think that they're extending their mandate at the moment and going outside of it. They've been given the realm to do that. But I just think that, they need to get back to their basics, which is helping getting these settlements through.
Do you not think they could provide a really positive contribution as we approach the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Te Tiriti o Waitangi? Well, the tribunal could actually be really good, strong advocates for the future of our citizenship, for the future of our nationhood, given the role that they have played through settlements, and therefore almost like a Truth and Reconciliation Commission for race relations in this country.
Well, that's not their role, though.
But
if they wanted to morph into that, then advocate to government to become something else. 2040
isn't far away.
Yeah.
We're 2026 now, so it's only 14 years. What do you most want to see on the 200th anniversary of the signing of the Te Tiriti o Waitangi in 2040?
What would be really ideal, and I think for all of us to see 2040 that we celebrate that we have got to a place where we can see equity starting to arrive for everybody, where we see the opportunities being equal for everyone. And I don't think we'll reach that by 2040, but I surely hope that we are in a position where we can all say we've given it a good go, and you know what? We think that we might be on a pathway that we can all agree to. We have the same goal, and it's that unity, right? We just have to try and figure out how we're going to get there. And constantly arguing with each other is one way, but it makes it hard to move forward. Debating, we can do that. Experts in the room, we can all have that. But we need to stand up and have a mature conversation with each other about how we do it together. So come 2040, I'm really hoping that we can say, you know what, we're on a better pathway now than what we were 14 years ago, and we're starting to move forward together. And I think that will be beneficial for every single person in this country.
Minister, Deputy Leader of the Ag Party, tēnā koe. Thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate all the time you've given to us.
Thank you.
Haere ake nei tā tātou hui e hoa mā, ko ia te ia o te wā, te wehi, ka pai, kei tua o te awa e whakatairanga. Kia ora mai anō. Roots singer Te Wehi is enjoying a swift rise up the music charts. He's won 2 awards at this year's Aotearoa Music Awards and is now on his first solo tour across Australasia.
I noticed you don't have your pōtai on today, but you still got the cowboy boots.
Yeah.
Liam Te Wehi, known better as just Te Wehi, is a country boy at heart.
I lived in Edgecombe when I was growing up, and it's just a small little country town there. Not many people there, everyone knows everybody.
The 32-year-old musician is breaking out of his small Bay of Plenty hometown and onto the top of the music charts.
Just done it for fun my whole life. I'm still doing it for fun now, but it was just a little party trick, I suppose, that I would do all the time.
Te Wehi's brand of reggae soul racking up almost 500,000 listeners a month on Spotify.
Open the door and feel vibration.
And in the past year, he toured alongside artists like 660, LAB and Stan Walker.
I always buzz out when I see my name in, like, on a poster. I'm like, that's out of it, eh? I'm just grateful that people show up, to be honest. And singing back to me is like, wow, I can't believe it.
The whakatohea and te whānau a Apanui Uri grew up surrounded by music.
My koro was always singing every night when he got home from work, so just seeing him playing guitar and playing piano and singing all the time, I just thought it was normal to do that as well.
But as a youngster, performing didn't come naturally.
My mum does a lot of work for the community, so she used to put on Christmas in the Park. They'd always be struggling to find acts and stuff, so she'd be like, oh, you need to get up there and sing some songs for us. So I sort of got pushed into that when I was younger, but I didn't really love it.
Oh, you didn't?
Eventually, music took a back seat.
I left school when I was like 15, 16, and then went and done an apprenticeship as an engineer. Got my trade, and then I left and become a fencer, a farm fencer.
In his downtime, he'd scroll through TikTok.
I saw heaps of people doing the TikTok videos, and they'll like do duets with people. And I just started like finding people singing and harmonizing to them. I just thought, it doesn't really matter if I put it out there. If no one watches, no one watches, and yeah, it doesn't matter.
But people did watch, and just like that, he was on a new path.
One of my songs just went big, and it was one of my own original songs that I wrote. I needed to like finish that song, but people were pushing me to finish it. They were like, can you release this on Spotify or YouTube or something? And that sort of gave me the push to be like, okay, I need to do this properly.
I said no, I don't need no saving.
he felt he had a story to tell through his waiata.
I like talking more about mental health because I have my own struggles. So if I can share what my mental health struggles are with people, then hopefully it makes people feel better about their own.
What have you gone through?
I'm quite a quiet person. I don't really talk to many people. I've got a close group of friends that I stick with. I don't tell many people anything, and that's because I get anxiety.
Is music therapeutic for you? Does it help you
Definitely.
cope with them?
Music and writing things down is what helps me to realise that everything's all right.
And 5 years after his first TikTok video, he's just released his debut solo album, I'm Home, produced by New Zealand artist Kings.
I just wanted to show people that I'm not just a reggae artist. I'll push the boundaries. I'll just have some fun. I'm not a serious person, but I am.
How has it been stepping into the spotlight? You know, you said you struggle with anxiety.
Yeah, it's still there, but I'm slowly getting used to it, I suppose.
Though his career is taking off, he wants to keep life away from the stage as simple as possible.
I live on a farm, so I get to do a bit of farm work and take my dogs for a run out there in the bush and around the farm.
How important is that balance for you?
I don't think I would last doing anything else. I couldn't move to Auckland. I couldn't be around too many people. I like being in my own little secluded bubble, I suppose, out on the country.
How are your whānau finding it? I know you've got a young whānau.
It's hard when I go away because, like, there's work to do at home, but they love it. My daughter, I brought her up at one of the LAB shows and she just stood there with her hands like this. Yeah.
She proud of Dad?
I think so. She doesn't really care though. Hey, she does her own thing. She's her own person.
Your mum, she said she had to try force you on stage now. What does she think about where your career is?
I think they're just proud, proud that I'm pursuing a dream. She's always wanted me to do that sort of stuff, like just be myself and do something I love. So she's happy that I've found my thing.
Thank you to my mum. I love you.
Coming off the back of winning not one,
Te Wehi!
but 2 awards at the Aotearoa Music Awards, Te Wehi is currently on his first solo tour across Australasia.
I'm nervous as, bro. But I can't wait. I can't wait to show people like what we've put together.
What can fans expect from you?
I get to show a lot of me. I actually get to get real, deep and personal.
How does it compare to when you look back, you know, to those early TikToks? I think you did a few in the car, and now, you know, you're going to be in venues like this.
Bro, this is crazy. This is such an awesome venue. I'm buzzy now too, because I never expected any of this to happen. I'm so grateful that my life has taken this turn.
Yeah, to use a phrase, ka mau te wehi. Kia hatu e hoa mā koe rā tata te hui I tēnei wiki. Kia ana te kōrero kia mau ki te tūranga. O taputapu a te haumi e, hui e, tā iki e. Nā te puna whakatongarewa, te hui I tautoko.
Matariki is connected to health and well-being and is often viewed as a sign of good fortune in the following year. Ina muramura I tōna āhua, he tohu tēnā karānea te ora, ka nui hoki te māngari.
Happy Matariki, everyone, and welcome. A seriously big deal at the weekend with the flying visit of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. A big deal because it celebrates the recent India Free Trade Agreement, and that means access to the world's fastest growing economy and biggest population. But it's been a rocky ride. Winston Peters has been openly critical of it, even though he's part of the government that signed up to it. He's not the only one either. So what does the FTA mean for you and I? I spoke with Aroha Mead and Donna Kerridge, who was actually in India last year. What did you learn?
The things that I learnt from that visit was that how much in common we have with the farmers in India, with the people who have lived on that land for generation upon generation. Our goals and aspirations were so alike to those of us here in Aotearoa and what we're trying to achieve, and just how hard they have to fight for their existence within their country.
Aroha, you've got a long history in Mātātua of pushing to protect mātauranga Māori and of advocating for relationships between indigenous peoples. What were you hoping might be achieved by this free trade agreement?
I was hoping that New Zealand was finally learning how to negotiate an agreement with a country that has 1.5 billion people, a civilization, over 5,000 years old, that they had learned how to be more sophisticated in approaching a trade agreement, how to be more inclusive of culture, of languages, of diversity, because we just come across looking very naive and quite shallow when we present to the world this very cultural concept of what the country is. And if you're going to go up against a nation like India, that's not the message to be giving them.
How were you involved in the negotiations and what was your experience?
Well, I was part of the Ngā Toki Whakaruruanga group, and I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And on reflection, I would never sign such an agreement again, because it meant that although I was privy to information about how the negotiations were going, we couldn't share that with Māori who might be directly impacted by what we were learning, and nor could we get advice from people that had the skills to help us in these negotiations. So as a strategy, I don't know that it serves Māori interests best to have Māori sign these agreements and then work exclusively with the Crown negotiators, but not be able to keep Māori informed.
When we were lucky enough to go and meet the Indian trade delegation alongside our trade delegation, it was great, and people were excited and people were positive, and we were able to share our culture and them theirs, and there was a real warmth in the room. It was a real people-to-people conversation. And I found that really positive. I was surprised after our discussions in meeting the trade delegation just how differently this looked when it was finally released. That was a total surprise to us.
How do people get to have any influence, particularly Māori, on negotiations when there's this secrecy and the text isn't released till it's signed?
Well, that's a good question, and that's a question that's to be taken directly to the ministers responsible for our trade agreements. But what I'd also like to say is, how to do a trade agreement with a foreign country 101. Don't say to the global media, I want an agreement with India within the next 9 months, because all your negotiating influence is just destroyed by doing that. And so what we ended up with was a very rushed process, and Māori and citizens at large were just completely left out. There was no way for them to participate.
Would it be fair to say, Donna, that genuine concerns about the agreement were drowned out by certain politicking around it?
I think that having an agreement, a trade agreement with India is a great thing. If we're going to thrive in the world, we need to draw our friends close and work collaboratively and cooperatively with them. It's a great opportunity. The risk to Aotearoa is that we have nothing really to bargain with. That's the risk to us. So we risk being taken over or led by corporations, diluting the aspirations of Māori and non-Māori. Te Tiriti is the best protection the whole of New Zealand has over commercial takeover of the things that we hold dear. Our landscape, our earth, our clean green environment, the ability to raise our children in a way that we see fit, to have laws that serve the people who live in this country rather than foreign interests. People think that the Treaty Protection Clause is all about protecting Māori. Rubbish. It's about protecting Aotearoa and our aspirations for our country. And we've got a weak clause in that agreement. Both the government, MFAT, and Ngā Tuki Whakarururanga worked together to get a stronger clause that we could both live with for our trade agreements. That was not in the agreement, and we are exposed.
Who provides the independent expert assessment of these kinds of agreements?
Well, we do. Māori have been doing that and doing it under quite extreme circumstances in terms of not having text to do an assessment against and having to sort of go with a particular line without absolute clarity as to whether it's in the agreement or not. It's been quite a difficult process. But I do want to make the point that, I mean, the free trade agreements have huge potential for us, but they're dependent on us having proper national legislation. So for the issues that matter to Māori in terms of te tiriti o Waitangi, in terms of our Māori cultural intellectual property rights, we don't have strong legislation at a national level. That therefore means that when an international treaty is signed, we become extremely vulnerable.
Donna, you presented a submission to the Foreign Affairs, Defence and Trade Committee. What was the key point that you wanted to make, and did they listen?
Firstly, did they listen? I don't think so. There were no questions when we give our submissions. You can't even see who you're talking to, so whether they listened or not, I don't know. The real issue for us is that we are expected to have invested $34 billion into India in order to maximise the benefits that we have negotiated with India. And it's really clear, the government's been very clear that that's aspirational. But what's not aspirational is the targets that we have to meet in terms of delivering to India, quite aside from the money. If we don't meet these other targets, allowing certain things to happen, then all bets are off. And right now, we only outward investment is something like 1.5 billion for the whole of the world. For us to get to 34 billion, unless something drastically changes and some money appears from somewhere and we seem to be cutting back on everything, how that expansion is going to happen seems near on impossible.
The Prime Minister's promised to prioritise 7 trade deals if elected. What needs to change to benefit and protect all New Zealanders, Donna?
A strong and robust treaty protection clause has to be number one, not just for Māori, but for all New Zealand citizens.
What about you, Aroha? What needs to change in terms of the model and the process?
I despair when I hear comments such as the Prime Minister made about the number of agreements. It's not about the number, it's about the quality. And it's better to have one trade agreement that is well negotiated, where everyone benefits, that doesn't cause harm, than to have 7 trade agreements with a range of countries and we don't really gain much from it. So the process is look for quality rather than quantity, protect the things that matter most to us as New Zealanders, protect what matters most to us as Māori New Zealanders, and do no harm.
Just a footnote, after the big TPPA protests, some of us took a claim to the Waitangi Tribunal. Ngā toki whakarururanga came out of a mediation agreement with the Crown. I'm a co-convener, but it's experts like Donna and Aroha who do the heavy lifting when it comes to agreements like the India FTA. After the break, how some of the overheated racial rhetoric is impacting on our own Indian communities and Mindis, Māori Indians. Aotearoa is home to almost 300,000 people of Indian descent, including a group I must admit I was unfamiliar with, the term anyway, Mindis, Māori Indians. The heated political rhetoric around the FTA and immigration has become personal for them. I spoke with Rawiri Bana and Labour candidate for Takanini, Karak Singh, about that and more. How would you describe yourself?
A proud Ngāti Whakaue, but also on my dad's whakapapa, I'm proudly Indian as well. And there are so many of us, and a bit of a term, Mindi, is out there. There are so many of us who are Māori Indian within Rotorua, Ngāraranui and Tūhaurangi and Whakaue, Ngāti Tau, Ngāti Whāo. So proud of both my whakapapa, because whakapapa is enough.
So we have things like Destiny Church, which is based in Rotorua there. And there's been some really hurtful rhetoric that's come out of there. So how do you help kids deal with that?
Oh, not only our kids, and it's having brave conversations, and it's things like Uncle Wallace Haumaha, our whānau at Waititi Marae of Ngāraranui, that is the official marae for our Sikh community throughout the country. It's because two of our large families of Ngāraranui are the Khans and the Singhs. So, and having wānanga with our Sikh community who come down for national events at our marae. And at the beginning of the year, we've just celebrated the release of 100 years of Punjabi within New Zealand. So there was a movie there, and my cousin Tani was in that movie with a full matora, and very proud, a product of both his Māori whakapapa and his Sikh whakapapa as well.
Karak, how involved are Māori and Indian communities?
When I landed in this country, I had to learn, I must say. It's every migrant's responsibility. When they migrate to any country, they must know their culture. And my relationship with Māoris is very strong. We had a hui in the Sikh temple, Takanini Sikh temple, not long ago. So our whānau from Nongataha came in the buses, and we had a nice korero, get to know each other, prayed with each other in the Sikh temple, had a kai together. So we go back to 1909 when our first Indian Sikh family got married into the Maori culture, and Bassi family, they were there, their grandkids were there.
What do Māori and Indian have in common, Rawiri?
Oh, I think we've just...
Apart from marrying each other, there's something there?
Well, I think too, I think we are very strong about whānau. We like to work the land, and I think when our whānau from the Punjab province and throughout India came to Aotearoa, they worked the land, and they worked the land side by side by our kraua and our kuia and our tūpuna there. So it's a big love of family. It's a big love of enjoyment, singing and sharing food and religion.
I go a bit further as well. I think our main values is we also believe in air, land, and our waters. And that's the main principles of Māori as well, that we give a value to those three things, which is given to us by nature, we must protect. And in our culture, Māori culture, is the same. And we share kai together. We sit on the floors. Everybody is equal, and we believe in serving. And that's the key, really, I feel.
How aware, Rawiri, do you believe Indian communities are of te tiriti and its meaning?
I actually think our Indian community are curious and want to know. They acknowledge that Māori are the tangata whenua too. So whether it's intimate knowledge or not, I think that they actually want to know more about te tiriti. So some, especially in Rotorua and the predominant Māori population there, I think within our schools, our tamariki Indian who come there very much have a knowledge and understanding that they want to know about te tiriti, which is really, really, great.
I am just never going to agree with a sort of butter chicken tsunami.
Butter chicken tsunami, the haka, which Dr. Jessica Hutchins really kicked back about. How do we deal with that?
I thought it was really big of Shay to actually come out and going to go, no, I was actually Kate here, I was wrong, let's have a conversation about this too. Because again, for us as Māori, whakapapa is everything. And so when we talk about a butter chicken tsunami or a haka against Indian, we're actually talking about our mokopuna as well.
So having a butter chicken, I think it's a #1 dish in the New Zealand at this moment. If I can answer that, I'm sure he enjoys it too, without naming the person. So what I believe in is it's no point in the election time coming in throwing this kind of rhetoric and dividing the country just for what? Right, to be in power. The politicians need to be careful about that. When a little bit of message gets out there and then all of a sudden we have to work double hard to get back to where we were before. So you go into the power to work for the community and for the country, and that's what the message is out there. Let's not divide, let's unite.
Just out of curiosity, Dawidi, how come there are so many Mindis down in Rotorua? What was that about?
Now that it's 1909, 100 years of our whānau from the Punjabi province and others coming there, again, it was the primary industries what attracted them. And again, I look now at aunties and that we've got 3rd, 4th generation mokos and nannies and aunties who have whakapapa Indian in them as well. And again, that leads into, I think, the importance of this visit by Prime Minister Modi and the Indian Free Trade Agreement. There are so many positives for us as Māori, what we're going to get out of the free trade agreement as well. Yeah.
FTA, we always favour FTA. It always helps, as long as it's done in a nicer manner, make sure that everybody understands what we are signing. And as our leader, Honourable Chris Hipkin, has said, Labour is always for FTAs.
Kia ora. Thank you for coming in today, Karag. All the best with your campaign.
Thank you.
And kia ora Rawiri, go back there, and all the best for the rest of the rugby season. After the break, from boy band to swords and sandals, Geordie Webber is next. Kia ora. Geordie Webber has got it all. Looks, talent, good with the taiaha, and now some big breaks in the acting world. Cruz Tāngira sat down with him.
Like as soon as I held a sword and a shield, I was just like, my body kind of knows this. Whether that's being raised in our culture and doing kapahaka when I was young and holding taiaha.
Spartacus, House of Asha.
Ai wanganui tonu I te mura o te ahi. Me tana hōri ke tōna ringa, ko Geordie Webber, tētahi o ngā whetū maiangi Māori o te wā.
Gratitude for opportunity to see you fall.
I was living in the Sunshine Coast, $50 in my bank account. What a typical story. I was just bottom of the barrel, and the audition came through. Funny too, because a couple months prior, I had a tarot reader tell me that a warrior was coming into my life.
He me whakahua a Spartacus ki konei tonu, ki Aotearoa ka putaina ki Te Ao whānui.
I did the audition, there was just I've never had this before with a role, but it was just a wave of going, this is my thing, this is me. So did that process, I booked it straight off for tape.
I hoko atu ia I ana mea katoa, ka tahi, ka rere ki Roma. I tiu ia ki roto I te Colosseum, I hoki mai ia ki te kawe, e hari I te kawe noa I tētahi kiripuaki, engari, I kawi ia I tōna ahurea.
to be the only lead that's representing our people and representing Kiwis as well. I was just like, oh shit, I've got more than just an acting job to do as well. I've got to uphold our mana as Māori, but also represent our people and our Kiwis, actors and performers. So daunting, but also strangely familiar. There was just something about weapons and things in my hand and movement that just went, okay, like I know this place.
Ko te taurua mano te kaumārua te wā I whakaputa a ia, no te wā e whai ana ia I te tohu paitahi toi whakari I tāna ki makaurau. Ka rangona e ia tētahi pānui I te reo irirangi, ka whakai atu.
Jim Carrey, Yes Man, straight up. Yeah, I watched that film, I think the year before, and I was just like, all right, this is a Yes Man year. So I heard that ad on the radio, and I was like, I can sing, I think, good enough. And I've done kind of stuff on a stage before, yeah, give it a crack. Did it.
Say how you miss me, really wanna kiss me, sing a silly love song, baby, I do.
I hua pairawa atu te rāwhai. Mai a titanium, tētahi pēne tāne rongonui o Aotearoa, kia Power Rangers, e kiriata rongonui tonu. Tūkaha Geordie I runga I Te Ao. Engari, he ngāore no te hanga I tētahi pawaka rongonui, he waiwarawa atu te puta.
So I went from a boy band into a kids show running around in spandex. So it's like, okay, well, I've got two things off the bat that I need to that have also given me experience.
Were there moments that you had to prove yourself as an actor?
Yeah, for sure. Still am.
Yeah.
To be fair, I went from a boy band I spent 2 years in Sydney just working and auditioning, and then I came back and my first acting gig was Power Rangers. It does take a while to shake that and prove to people that oh no, give me a shot at this dramatic role because I can do that.
Ki wanganui I ngā rama kānapanapa I kona hoki te wā o te korekore, he wā whakamātau.
I just had a pretty unwavering belief of it. Like when you know you're meant to do something, you do it. And I made a little promise to myself when I did Power Rangers. As soon as I did that job, I was just like, all right, I'm never doing a normal job again.
Aha ko ngā angitūtanga o tēnei wā, ka hori a Geordie e wariwari ki te oroko timatanga. Koira hoki te wāhi e hoki tonu a ia, hei taunga manawa.
My world, surfing, hiking, creating things. So I like shooting things with my friends. Just hanging out and barbecuing with my mates as well, eating kai. But yeah, surfing, getting outdoors, time with my whānau. I love anime.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like my guilty pleasure.
Which one is your favourite?
Oh, so many at the moment. But Jujutsu Kaisen's like one of the latest ones. The latest season's just come out, so I've been watching that a little bit.
Meheme ko te au I nai nei te atamira o Geordie, ko te kainga tonu te ukaipo o tōna ngākau.
I've been fortunate to have a beautiful whānau, to have such a tight-knit community around me that has pushed me on to go do it. I know a lot of people that haven't had that.
Yeah.
So I guess by me continuing to do it is honouring that.
He hōpunu tonu tōna hononga ki tōna awhirea. Engari pēnei I te tokomaha o tātou, ke te tōhono tonu a ia ki te reo Māori.
Like I've always wanted to,
yeah.
But I've always thought my life's pretty inconsistent and I'm always moving. So coming home now, I really feel that call to go, all right, get into kura or start with kura pō.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not too confident in my reo.
Yeah.
And that's something that's always bothered me, which is why I'm trying to change it now. Hold that tree and wait for him. So hold that branch. Yep. With your head in. And then follow kaifari up. Reset. A little, 2, 3, go.
I nai nei e tuhi ana ia I ana kiriata, e whakahari ana I tōna ake kamupene whakaputa, e moimoi ana mō ngā kōrero koi anake, e tai ana te kōrero. Mō ngā taiuhi Māori katoa e mātakitaki ana, me o rātou moimoia nui, me o rātou rangirua, e whanga kupu nōna.
You are the magic, because you already know, and I guess I'm standing where you wanted to be, so just believe that.
And that's us for this week. Enjoy Matariki, the season of whanaungatanga, togetherness, and remembering our nearest and dearest who have passed on. Pō Marie.
Te reo, te take.
For more Te Ao of Moana, stream full episodes now on Māori Plus.